All right. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Derek Hayden. I'm with Shelbyville Insurance. We handle the city's cyber liability and commercial insurance as well. The state has recently required a new training for all employees about cyber liability, data breach, and how to handle information and tech as far as technology goes. So I know a lot of you probably don't have access to computers as much as some other employees do, but they still require it for everybody. So I promise I will not take a ton of time. I know it's going to get hot in here and let you guys get back to your day, but there's a few things that I'll talk about. And if there's any questions along the way, let me know. I printed out, I know everybody wants to take some of this home. I printed out some of the stuff to follow along. If you want it, let me know and someone will bring it along to you. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk a little bit and just let you know some of the highlights of the training and what should be considered issues and what you should avoid as far as emails technology goes. So we all see it in the news. You see the big breaches on the news about, Target was a big one several years ago, and this and that. Blue Cross Blue Shield in Tennessee, Anthem, I think is what it's called, was breached. So there's a lot of breaches where information is stolen by hackers, so they can then go sell it to someone who's going to use it for bad stuff. And then your information's stolen, your identity's lost. So as a business or an organization, the city is liable for the information that they keep on our citizens, community members, and employees as well. So there's a lot of things that you could come across, whether it's in your business work or even in your personal life, whether you have email, text messages. There's a lot of people trying to get information from you and from the city that aren't supposed to have it. So I'm going to hit some of the highlights and examples of what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it. Just so you know what to look out for in your daily roles. So first thing I'll talk about is ransomware. Anybody heard of ransomware? Anybody want to give an example? We'll make this interactive. Any examples of ransomware or any ideas of what it is? 50 people here, no one knows what it is. All right, I'll give you the definition. It's type of malware that denies access to data until a ransom is paid. So what they'll do, the hackers will somehow gain access, and we'll talk about how they typically gain access to the computer network. They'll gain access to your network, and they will encrypt or steal the information on your computer. And then you cannot gain access to it until you pay the hacker a ransom. Typically, it's, they'll try to figure out how much money the city can afford to pay them so they get paid. The city goes to other lengths as far as backups and that type of stuff to hopefully reduce the risk of that as well. But if the city had a ransomware attack or you had a personal ransomware attack on your home computer, what will happen is they'll encrypt your data. You can't get it back until you pay, let's say, $10,000. And that's not many people have $10,000 sitting around to pay a hacker to get your information back. So we'll talk a little bit about how they get that here in a little bit. Social engineering is the main way of how they get into your system in today's world. So social engineering, here's the definitions: the art of tricking someone into divulging personal information or other confidential data. I'll give you some examples of this. Really what they do is they try to act like someone they are not so that you give them information willfully, and then they can take that information and steal money, steal data, steal personally identifiable information, and again, use that against you. You lose your identity, or the city has to figure out how to pay for those data breaches and the impacted people. So I'll give you a few examples here real quick of real life liability claims we've seen on social engineering. So we have a client in Central Illinois, not in Shelbyville, but in Central Illinois. And this client has about 15 employees or so. And they use a point of sale system. So like where you take your credit card, swipe it through the card system. That's how people pay them for their services. So the business owner was gone from this business for a short period of time, and the hackers somehow found out that this individual was gone. So what this person did was they acted like they knew the business owner, and they acted like they had talked to the business owner, and they called one of the employees that works at like the front desk, something like that, said, hey, I'll use Rachel, for example. Hey, Rachel, this is Derek from XYZ point of sale service. You're due for your annual software update. We talked to Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner. They said it's okay to talk to you to get access to the system to do that software update. So Rachel, being a good employee, says, oh yeah, if you talk to the business owner, then I can go ahead and give you access so we can get that update done, thinking she was doing the right thing for the business. So she gave the password, gave the information. The person says, okay, thank you. We'll get in and get that done and get that off your plate. You can move on with your day. So awesome. No harm, no foul, they thought. About 2 weeks later, the business owner notices about $75,000 missing from their checking account and started to call the bank saying, hey, I didn't take this money out. Why is $75,000 missing from our bank account? They said, well, you withdrew the money yesterday afternoon. Says, no, I didn't do that. Well, come to find, someone had hacked into the system. They waited around for about 2 weeks until they figured out the password information for that bank account, and they got 75 grand. So that business owner was down $75,000. Luckily, as far as insurance goes, he had purchased a policy that covered it minus his deductible. So it wasn't a huge deal because he got most of his money back, but still he had to go through forensics to figure out what information was stolen by that hacker, had to figure out, what systems they had to replace or update because they might still have access to it even after they figured out who did it. But that's the type of stuff that we have to face in today's world. It's not just by email. That person called in and got information. And a lot of times you think it could be, someone has a really thick foreign accent. This person had a plain English accent. Someone didn't raise any flags for the employees. So if you ever have, now a lot of you probably don't have direct access to phones, but if you do and you get that type of phone call, you need to get that authorized by someone in your department or here at the city hall to make sure that they are actually calling to do what they said they're going to do. So that was an example of what's called social engineering. They called in acting like someone they really aren't to get access to the business's information. Another example, just to give you one more by email. This was a business, again, not in Shelby County, but here in Central Illinois. The hacker used social media to find out that the business owner, the CEO of this company, was away on vacation in Florida. They emailed one of the employees at the business saying, hey, this is Bill Smith, let's say is the business owner's name. Hey, this is Bill. I'm in Florida. I had some car trouble. I need you to wire me $15,000 so I can get this car fixed while I'm down here in Florida so I can get back. And the person working at the business says, oh, well, Bill needs help. I need to help him. So they sent bank account information to wire the money to, sent the money off, and the money's gone, lost $15,000. So that's an example of they're acting like someone who you feel like you would trust, but it's not really coming from that person. So be on the alert if you're getting those emails, whether it's business emails or even personal emails, because they're starting to attack your Gmail, Yahoo account, whatever happens to be, American Online. I don't know what everybody uses anymore, but just be aware if you get those emails, most of them are not legit. If you do know the person, obviously, most cases in that scenario, you're going to know the business owner. Text them, call them. Don't send that money until you actually talk to them in person or over the phone. Say, hey, did you really send this? Do you really need $15,000 for your car? I'm like, no, I'm sitting in my hotel and we have a rental car. So there's to authenticate it, calling the person is always the best deal, or talking to them in person if you have the opportunity. Okay, so that's social engineering. So a lot of emails that you can detect. You can detect a few bad emails in a few different ways. I'm going to go through some of the common threats, and some of you might have some examples. I'll read through some fake email examples and give you some ideas of what to look for so you don't open the wrong email. So some of the common threats include they ask for your personal information. So they'll send you an urgent email saying, hey, I need your date of birth so that I can open your account with Costco is one of the examples there. So, hey, we're getting ready to set up your Costco account. We need your date of birth and your credit card information so we can get that started. Well, they obviously want you to not look at who it's from and the link attached because they want you to send it as soon as possible so they can get your information. So they're asking for personal information. They'll send links so that when you open that link, that link might download a ransomware that we talked about before, where now that link opens and encrypts your information and you lost all the city's information. So if it has a link, you can hover over a link. Do not click it. Don't click it. Keep your finger off the button. If you just go on the side, you can hover over that link and it'll show where that link goes to. And if it's not a credible source, don't click it. They send unrealistic threats. So they'll send like a urgent, if you don't pay today, we're going to cancel your account. And this happens by text message a ton. Anybody got the text messages from Netflix saying, hey, your account's suspended. We need your credit card information to keep it going. That's another example by text there. So they're trying to get an urgent response from you to get your information. Generic greetings. So they'll say, instead of saying, dear Mr. Hayden, they'll say, dear sir or ma'am, or dear valued customer. So instead of being very directed towards you, it's a very vague intro to try to get your attention. So they usually, if they actually are someone working with you, they know your name and they aren't going to say, hey, valued customer. I mentioned sense of urgency. They ask to send money, so they'll send a link saying, hey, direct the money to this bank account. Don't click that link because that link's going to take you to a bad place, or you're going to send money to it and it's not going to go to the person you think it's going to. Spelling and grammar is another one. Most of the time, these hackers are not American. They are overseas in Europe or in Asian countries, and their grammar's poor. So you want, if you see something that looks, now I know I've seen some text messages that you would think, may not be from around here either, but that you can kind of check and see that doesn't make sense at all. That's probably because it's not from the person who you think who is sending it. So try to avoid those emails. Attachments. I've had one. So we have a testing system at our agency where we're tested on opening correct attachments. And I got dinged for one, just to give an example. Wasn't a real event. It was we have a test system where they like testing how good we are at detecting emails. Well, I had an invoice from a company that we do business with. It said, hey, your invoice for this policy is attached. So I clicked it and it popped up as I got, it was fake hacked, but hey, you've been hacked. Now you have to take extra training. I'm like, great. So if you hover over that attachment, again, it'll show you the link to where that attachment's going, or it'll be able to show you the source of where it's going to. So do not open attachments unless it's from a credible source. Another one they try to get you is they'll try to act like they're from a government agency. Hey, the FBI's we're monitoring your account right now, or the CIA, or the IRS. IRS is doing an audit. We need your information immediately. So they'll try to act like they're someone very important. Just be cognizant of that and try to, if it is that, they probably are not going to send you an email for a very urgent audit that they're going to do. All right. So does anybody have the examples there? And if not, I'll just kind of give you an example. I'll talk through what the examples are. So these are emails that are actual phishing emails. Like these are emails that were created by hackers to try to get the attention of the opener to get your information. So the first one, and I'll kind of read through it if you don't have the example in front of you, says invitation to Google Analytics users. And we mentioned that they're very vague in who they're addressing. So the first line is good morning. Like it doesn't say good morning, Rachel. It just says good morning. And then it says last chance to reserve your shares. So it's urgent. They want you to take urgent action. It's your last chance. They want you to click the button so you don't miss out. But if you go on down, it kind of it mentions US dollars. If it's Google, why would they say US dollars? Anyway, the information in it just seems kind of fishy. And then when you look at who it's from newsletter at linkedupdates.com. So it's just an odd person to be from. So anyway, those are red flags in that particular email. The next one is from Costco. If you have the example in front of you, it's a Costco email, but it is from the email address it's from. It says Costco shipping agent, but the actual email address is manager@cbcbuilding.com. So do you think that would be from Costco if it was from cbcbuilding.com? Probably not. Probably a fake. It also says, unfortunately, your delivery was canceled. Take immediate action. Basically, click here so we can get your delivery back on course. So they want you to click a button that's going to encrypt your system and steal your information. Yeah, there's not a ton of information there on it, but it just is very odd that you didn't get more accurate information from Costco if you had a delivery that was sent out. So anyway, that's another red flag email. Last one I'll look at, it says urgent at the top. So they're trying to make it like you have to respond very quickly. It's urgent. And then it says Leon Green at Microsoft.com. So it's playing off of Microsoft.com, but instead of an FT, it's a TT. So don't laugh. But this one actually says, hi Tess, I'm in a meeting right now with Amazon. It seems the invoice went to their old account. You have the new details. Here's the info now. So that's kind of goes back to the example I gave you where they're trying to get you to send money. They're acting like somebody that you think you know, and they're giving you an account to send money or invoice money to that's ultimately going to end up in who knows bank account. So anyway, just be cognizant of those emails because those are the ones that end up losing you a lot of money or the city, depending on where it's coming from. All right. I've mentioned all the red flags. So I mentioned that. So the hyperlinks, if there's a link in the email, don't click it, but just hover over it. That'll show you where it's actually going. And if it's a real long spammy link, just delete it. Or you can ask Rachel to review it for you. Say, hey, does this look legit? And Rachel also, managed IT through a third party, right? So they can check it for you too. So if you ever have something that looks fishy and you don't know if it's legit, before you click on it, I would recommend going to Rachel, if that's okay, or Sarah. And then if they don't feel like it's legit, they may call either me or the third party IT management service that you guys work with, and they'll be able to identify, hey, we're not going to open this, or they can call the source if it's a legit source and see if it actually came from someone that's reputable. I went through all that. Really, the only other things that the city is proactively doing things to reduce risk as well. So, multi-factor authentication is a big one. If you have a passcode on your cell phone, like so before you open it, that's considered multi-factor authentication, or the Face ID, where you have to get access. You have to get access to your phone. You have to know a password. Well, the city also has passwords on computers and that type of stuff. So that's one way that you can prevent theft of your information, is make sure that you have the password and no one else has it. So no one else gets access to your stuff. Another way, obviously, your passwords. When you have passwords, don't use your name for the password, or Derek's computer. That's not a good password. The best way that I have been told is take the lyrics from your favorite song, like I'll say "Carry On My Wayward Son." That's a long one, but if you remember that, no one else is going to think to type out "Carry On My Wayward Son" as the password. But you can use those lyrics. It creates a longer password, and they're harder to steal by hackers. So that's an example of what you can do. I can tell you my old password when I was in high school wouldn't stand up. It was Derek1 was my password for years and years and years. And I got in trouble once I got to a real job and couldn't use that anymore. So you can try to use it on my accounts. It's not going to work anymore. But if you have a password like that, I would recommend changing it. And that's it. I think that takes care of all the information I'm supposed to review. Oh, PII stands for personally identifiable information. If you ever see that where someone's requesting PII, that is personally identifiable information for you or clients of the city or the city's information. You don't want to share that with people, because that's what people are trying to steal to get money for. So that is like dates of birth, your full name, address, email addresses, social security numbers, driver's license numbers. That's all examples of PII. Those are the things we're trying to protect and that we don't want to get into the hands of the wrong person. Any questions? Cool.